Hello, hello, and hello. How are we doing today? Welcome to another edition of The Sit Down on the College Football Mafia Network. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown. Hopefully, shortly here, Jeramiah Dickey, the Athletic Director for Boise State Broncos, should be here. And I've got 8 questions I'm hoping that we can get through. Just so everybody knows, what our sit down show is for, if you're new to the channel, is to do exactly what we're doing: hard hitting interviews, informational. We're not talking opinions. These are people that actually dictate the sports that we absolutely love in collegiate athletics. I want to appreciate everybody for being here today. Just as a warning, I'll probably, if I get it to any questions while he's here, it'll have to be a super chat. I just don't have time for anything else. I love all of you, but we need to do that, okay? All right, here we go. Jeramiah Dickey, the one, the only Boise State Bronco AD. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I appreciate the opportunity to jump on.
Oh man, I just, as long as you have fun, right? That's the only
That's
thing I
right.
want to do. I'm not a hard hitting. I'm not Peter Jennings, so I'm not going to be breaking any news today. But I appreciate you spending some time with us.
No, well, thank you again for the opportunity. It's obviously we're ramping up for the season and there's a lot going on. It's the industry has changed. It's no longer seasonal per se. It's 24/7 and just excited about, getting to South Florida and what's next for us.
Well, I'm looking for another big season out of Boise State. As a BYU fan, I think Boise State picked up the mantle in the early 2000s that BYU had gone out and really laid the groundwork for over 20, 25 years. And you guys just have been putting the wood to it, as it were. In that time, how have you seen the transformation from Boise State, a school you used to drive by on I-15, I-84, and now where you are now, which is a brand?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty remarkable. I'm not from Idaho, but growing up in Texas, I watched from afar, and the blue is powerful, and it still is. And when I was presented this opportunity, it was just it checked a lot of boxes, but it was a dream job for me, and much of that was based off people like Coach Cutter and Coach
Right.
Hawk and Coach Pete and Kellen and just the legends and the foundation that they built. And so, now you look and look, I still believe we're in the infant stages of growth. We haven't been an FBS program for all that long, but
Right.
since we've been an FBS program, we've had a tremendous amount of success. And that's a testament to a lot of them and those in the past, those present, and obviously we have big shoes to fill in the future. And so it really is, as the leader of a department and a fan base and a great institution and this community in general, it makes me very proud to be a part of something bigger than yourself and what we represent in Idaho as the front porch.
I try to ask questions other people don't normally get to, so I'm going to avoid a couple of the ones that everybody's heard you ask over and over again. Let's talk about something that has some meat. The new A4 governance, and how that those rules, roughly 65%, or it is 65% of the control in the power conferences. I'll say Power Four. I'm not gonna not Power Five is out there too. We'll talk about that in a second. But how do you look at that governance structure change? And do you think it is actually the monumental change that everybody's been anticipating, or is it just a smaller move the down the board an inch or two?
Yeah, I think it's monumental, especially for those in the group of six. I know I've been public on Power Five, and there's, you said you'll have some questions on that, and I'll be happy to answer them. But I'm not overly excited about it. Just like I wasn't excited that that's now we're helping pay for house settlement.
Right.
I think our industry in general, we have a problem with unity. We're not united. It's extremely chaotic and fear is driving a lot of the decision making because people don't want the power to at this point to break away and do their own thing, and I'm not one to make decisions in fear. My job is to do what's in the best interest of Boise State, to represent us at the highest level and continue to tell our story. And I believe in who we are. I believe in what we represent. And I know a lot of the other group of six feel the same way. And it's frustrating. And that just means, I got to dig in harder and fight appropriately. So for what's best for our industry. The reality is, I think a lot is getting lost. I saw that Northern Illinois, coach
Yeah,
yesterday. I think it was
you
yesterday, it
did.
may have been today, but I saw it on social. And what a powerful message. And it's something that I think we're losing sight of. Yes, I understand money is important, but I also understand the impact could be that much more important. And our job is still to prepare our student athletes for life. Our job is still to be I'm concerned about our legacy. This is an industry I love. I grew up loving, and I think it represents something bigger than ourselves. And I think a lot of that's getting lost in terms of, power 2, power 4, group of 6. At the end of the day, the fans should matter. The student athletes absolutely should matter and be our priority. And the experience that we're providing them, and how much we mean to the various communities that we're in. And so in general, like, the changes, yeah, they're monumental for us. We lost power, and but ultimately we do represent a large chunk of the FBS, and the communities that we live in. And so I'm frustrated, but there's always a solution. It just means I got to work harder and figure it out.
If you were CEO of college football, just talking about
Yeah.
football by itself, would you prefer to continue dealing with all the conferences independently and some have power and some have don't, or something a little bit bigger? You probably don't know it, but I had a super league idea, which is a number division of all of the programs that basically can pay the minimum freight to play, not restricted by conference. It's more about your brand and your value. How, if you were CEO, what would be your perfect model?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I go back and forth. There are a lot of ideas out there right now, and I think a lot of them have there's positives and negatives to them. I don't believe in perfection, but if I was CEO, I'm a big proponent of promotion relegation, and
Oh, I like that too.
I mentioned earlier that unity is important, and I think numbers. There's power in numbers, and if we could somehow unite as an industry, I think there is more money for all of us, and that would include the Power Four. And I think that's been a challenge when you think about our current setup and infrastructure. ADs are hired to do what's in the best interest of the institution. The president's the same. The ADs report to the presidents. Conference commissioners report to the presidents, and ultimately the presidents represent the NCAA. And so I think it's very challenging, to get the necessary unity so we quit living insanity. Now, there are some solutions that have been thrown out there, and obviously house settlement and revenue share, but every decision creates that many more questions, and ultimately we're in a place that the model currently, as it sits today, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And so I like the idea of promotion relegation. I like the idea of combining efforts and monetizing our operations, and we don't have to look too far to see an example of that has paid dividends, over and over, and that's the NFL. And so there are models out there that we can, and there isn't one. It's not a one stop shop. Like, the NFL doesn't do promotion relegation, but it does work internationally, and you see a
Yeah.
lot of soccer leagues do it. And I go back to our purpose, and our why is to prepare our student athletes for life and the impact that they could have beyond the field of play. And if there's a way that we can continue to do that and serve our communities and have the impact we have in our communities, and provide a level of competition that's more people tune in, to me, that sounds pretty good. And I think there's more, in addition to that. I'm a proponent of collective bargaining, and I don't believe it has to be employment. I think there is a path for non-employment collective bargaining. And what's happening right now it's really sad, and but it gives me a lot of hope. There are a lot of great ADs out there, and leaders in our industry, and I know, I don't want to speak for anyone else. These are my opinions, but I'm not one to live insanity. And I think that well enough. You follow me a lot. I'm pretty open and honest. I feel that's the platform I have, and that's, I am concerned about our legacy as leaders in this industry and what this looks like. I think I'm young enough that I care about the next 20 years because I'm not sure I'm smart enough to do anything else. So, I want to find solutions. I want to be a part of the solution. And that's kind of the crossroads I'm at. Like, as opposed to, I don't want to cry wolf. Like, it is what it is. You play the hand you're dealt. But what can I do as a leader in this industry to truly impact change in a positive way that this thing can become something that's sustainable for future generations? Because I've seen the impact, I live it in terms of the student athletes I serve, and that's important to me.
The Boise State move to the Pac-12. We're not going to talk about lawsuits. I know
Thank you.
everybody's asked every question in the world about the lawsuit, but you guys looking forward, and you have been
Yeah.
very progressive looking forward. How exciting is that move into the Pac-12?
I'm so excited. I mean, from the time that, and obviously there is litigation, and that's not something I can discuss at length. But yeah, there's challenges in anytime you're transitioning away, and we're very grateful for the Mountain West and the experience they provided, and I think very highly of the people that serve the Mountain West and Gloria and her team, and it's nothing but love. Ultimately, it's a business decision, and my job is to best position us. And when I look at, since that announcement, how it's impacted us, from specifically from a football and basketball standpoint, and the brand, and movement creates opportunity. We're not going to sit back, and not every decision I make is going to be successful. That's the reality of being a leader. But as an adaptive leader, I'm not gonna wait for something to happen. We are gonna make things happen, and time will tell. But so far, it's been awesome. I'm excited about creating a new conference. Yes, we're inheriting a brand, but it is a brand new conference. That means we
Yeah.
get to curiously question, things that are going on in our industry, and why are we always doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results? That's the insanity piece. I'm reading this book, and I actually got it from Teresa oh, you can't see it. I don't know where my
Right there.
camera
Yeah.
was. Think Wrong.
Think wrong.
Think Wrong. And it's been awesome because it's the mentality I think that we have to go in when we look at present and future, of building out a conference and what it means to the communities it serves. And so I'm excited about the teammates I have and the other ADs. I think everyone's showing up with the same mentality. We all want more. We all want to be bar raisers and think differently about how we're going to approach our day-to-day business. And ultimately that has a positive impact on the athletes and the staff and the supporters that we serve. So I'm excited. Our team is excited. And we have seen it pay dividends in terms of season ticket sales, donations, our storytelling, and that's really powerful for a place like Boise State.
Not all G6 programs are made equal. Boise
Yeah.
State had just had a massive round the last year in raising capital, capital investment. You're doing things with the stadium. How do you see that growth going at Boise State? What is the cap? Do you guys have a goal? Is 60,000 seat stadium completely out of the question?
I will never say never. That's our community. I believe our state is the fastest growing state in the country. Our community is growing exponentially, especially since I arrived, and probably started prior to me getting here. There is a lot of room to grow in Idaho, and that gives us a lot of opportunity. We are the only FBS in the state. We do not have to navigate professional sports, and that's not a shot at the Boise Hawks or the Steelheads in hockey and independent baseball. They're partners of ours. I think very highly of them and how they serve the community. But we're getting professional soccer. I mean, you're seeing some things take place in our community that gives me hope from an athletic standpoint in the future, of this department. Right now, my goal is 40,000 plus. I say 40,000
Yeah.
plus. I don't, could it be 41, 42? There's standing room only tickets. It's how many premium seats do we put in? We've obviously, we're continuing to build out our North End Zone project. That will be done August of next year. But we're pivoting to the east side of the city, and we're pivoting into Extra Mile. We need more premium space in Extra Mile. We need to better serve our community and our donors and our student athletes for that matter. And so there's always opportunity. I think 40,000 plus is key for us when you look at our our modeling and how we're working on creating a sustainable model to be able to invest back in from a revenue share standpoint, which the reality is an expense right now.
I think the money everybody gets drowned in, and it's easy to either look at it from an upside or a downside. But Boise State, being the program that it has, the flagship of Idaho,
Yeah.
as you say, let's talk about the difference between the G6 and the Power Four. What can we do to close that gap so that there's no longer this big disparity? Because it's untenable what's going on right now.
Yeah, I agree. And once again, I don't blame anyone. Sometimes you play the hand you're dealt, and over time it becomes the status quo. And I think it's my duty and responsibility to curiously question. And one of the questions that I've had, and I've been very public about it, what does it mean to be a Power Four? A lot of schools were grandfathered in, and when you compare us to some of the schools in those conferences, we're much closer than we are to maybe some of the group of six that we compete with. And so I think defining what those expectations are, and I can live with, having the rules of engagement, and that at least gives me a platform with our state, our community, our institution, our donors to say this is what it's going to take. And if that's
Right.
not what people want, that's okay. Like, I'm okay with that, and I've said it. Maybe I'm not the right person here because I want to be a bar raiser. I want us to be elite. I want us to compete at the highest level. And I think we've proven that in a number of sports, but specifically football. I think we've proven that over the course of time. We're top 5 in winning percentages. We've gone to a bowl game for 27, 28 straight years, or been bowl eligible for 27, 28 straight years. We just went to the CFP. I believe that we have value, and that's something that when I look at the group of 6 versus Power 4, that's why I've been saying, why can't we be Power 5? They were, and the pack is still involved in some of these conversations, and I'm
Sure.
getting over my skis in terms of my level of intelligence and education in terms of the power they have or don't have, in some of these votes and processes. But right now you can see it happening nationwide across all conferences. And I think the Big 12 and the ACC could say the same thing. There's 2 that have the power, there's the other 2, and then there's all of us. And it goes back to there is no unity. And at some point, we have to come together and find solutions, and we have to define the expectations. And that's where I am a proponent of promotion relegation. Why not? Like, and even if that meant that we had to be relegated to start off, I believe in who we are. I believe in being a Bronco and what it represents. And I believe in my team that it won't take long that we could supplant, some of the teams at the bottom. But I'm biased, and, I love my team and I love my people.
Would love nothing more than Boise State to be playing BYU every year. The Big 12 is obviously going to be in flux. We're going to be in flux for the foreseeable future in all of college football. The CFP format, would you promote a 16 or maybe even a 24 team playoff?
I would if it extended the opportunities that Group of 6 currently has. They've given us the scraps. We have
Yes.
1 seat, and the financial piece of the value of what it was versus the percentage it went up for us, in terms of the payouts, it's just not right. And so I would, if there was a legitimate conversation on the actual share of that revenue that is a result of the media rights and everything else. And I want what's best for Boise State, but I want what's best for our industry. And I think competition is important. And I've worked in this industry for a long time. I've been to, maybe not all, but a lot of the schools, majority at this point around the country that represent the FBS. And I see their fans, I see how they interact, and with sites like yours, and it's something that's what makes college athletics so awesome. And I don't want to lose that. And so yeah, I wanted to, I'm in favor of expanding, but I, what I don't want is it to expand and we just have 1 seat still.
Right.
Now that's better, but I'm not here for better. I'm here for best. And I want to continue to push and fight for us, and fight for an industry that I love dearly.
Completely agree with you. I have one super chat and then I will let you go. MBM, a valuable member of the College Football Mafia family, he says, I want Boise in the Big 12. Kick out Utah, bring them in. I've tailgated with their fans in Stillwater, up in Boise. Great people. Boise is a great city, easy to navigate, and the stadium is 10 minutes from the airport. Yeah, if you've never been to Boise, the airport's up on a little left. Freeways down here, and then literally the stadium's right there. Provo is pretty close to Provo Airport's pretty close to LaVell Edwards Stadium. You can't get much closer than you can in Boise.
No, and it's awesome for us because you know we can. I'm traditionally late to everything, life in general. So I'm always rushing to the airport, but it doesn't take too much time. But it is pretty cool, like when you come into this community. Having I had never been to Idaho, you know, or Boise, much less Idaho. When I got this job, you know, it was during COVID and it was all on Zoom. But everything that people told me of those connected to this community said, "JD, you're going to love it. It's absolutely amazing." And it gives me chills even talking about it. My family loves it here, and I appreciate that comment. You know, from one of your supporters. You know, Boise is an amazing place. This state is awesome, and there's so much room to grow, and for us to be a part of that, and to represent something bigger than ourselves, and to be that front porch of Idaho. You know, it's pretty cool for a leader in this industry. So
Shameless plug for me. If you ever have a spot that I can come up and cover you in person at one of your home games, I would absolutely love it.
well,
I'm trying to give Boise State as much coverage as possible. Boise State, Washington State, and Oregon State. All three tomorrow could be playing in power football. So I wish you nothing but the best, and we will do this again. Okay.
would love to do it. And once again, I appreciate the time and how you help tell our story. And I need to reach out to Brian and we need to get back on the schedule. I will give a shout out to BYU. They absolutely handled it with class. Tom did in terms of, you know, having to cancel our
Yeah, that
agreement
sucked.
and I completely understood and but just how they handled it. I was really grateful. That was early on in my you know, as an AD, and I was still learning, and I just really appreciate their professionalism and how he communicated. And so I have a lot of BYU. We have a lot of crossover in terms of BYU and Boise State, and
Yes.
so I have a lot of donors that support BYU as well, and so I think it's a great game and matchup and something that would love to get back on the schedule. So I'll have to get to work on that. But thanks again for this opportunity and go Broncos.
Go Broncos. We'll see you later. He is AD Jeramiah Dickey from Boise State University. Thank you very much, Jeremiah.
Thank you, man.
All right.